Hi, I am Jesse Hamilton, and welcome to Jesse Talks, which will be a series of conversations in areas of housing, immigration, landlord-tenant, and other legal matters. So I'm going to be your community activist to make sure you get the information that you need in order to deal with issues at hand. Welcome, Dr. English, to Jesse Talks. And today our topic is going to be on mental health in Brooklyn and especially within the Black community. We've worked extensively in the past dealing with mental health in the communities of color and how there's a stigma or people are just not in tune to get mental health. Now that we have this coronavirus, I think mental health is coming front and center of the needs in all communities on how to cope with the death, with the housing, mortgages. It just seems like people have a lot of burdens that they have to deal with now. So, Dr. English, can you just give a brief overall talk to the people who might be listening on issues that you can help them with or issues they should be looking at to get mental health?
So I think that's an excellent question in terms of like looking at what social workers do or people in the clinical and mental health field in terms of helping to organize and coordinate and collaborate with outside entities to connect people to resources and opportunities to help them with challenges in their life. Mm-hmm. Social workers are often seen in areas of social justice where they're doing a lot of advocacy or working with families that are victims of domestic violence and children who are within welfare. So they do have a broad scope of service delivery. But on the behavioral health side, social workers, you must have a license, practice social work. And so you need to be absolutely a clinical social worker to look at the behavioral health continuum and how we can be helpful in the mental health space, as particularly at this time that we're dealing with isolation, quarantine, COVID-19, and all those sorts of things. So, I mean, if you're saying like, what is it that mental health providers should be looking for, or what should we be doing, or what should people be looking for?
For people who are watching this now, stay in place and shelter and dealing with the quarantine. Psychologically, we may suffer some traumas that we don't even realize we're being traumatized. Like you mentioned, domestic violence. You might have alcohol. So there's a lot of things that people are dealing with right now. So as far from a clinical perspective, with people being sheltering in the quarantine, what suggestions or meditation you can use or techniques you can do to lessen the stress levels in one's life?
Well, a therapeutic, meaning a medication, that would be the last resource, right? In terms of what we would sort of prescribe in terms of an intervention. But I agree with you. I think that COVID-19 has created a certain level of isolation and quarantine that we must be aware of and be concerned about as government, as healthcare providers, everyone, because before COVID, isolation has been attributed to serious health outcomes and is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of the effects on your body. And so what we're finding is that there's robust evidence that suggests social isolation and loneliness significantly increase the risk for premature mortality. And the magnitude of the risk exceeds that of many leading other health indicators, which is profound. So some of the things that we know is that it causes anxiety, hopelessness, despair, psychological trauma, acute stress disorder, cognitive impairment. And one of the things we're finding with COVID patients particularly is this new emerging concern around delirium, which is an abrupt change in the brain that is caused by like an inflammatory response and cause like mental confusion and emotional disruption, difficulty thinking, hallucinations and delusions, which oftentimes we associate or mimic schizophrenia. And again, they add to increased mortality and increased diseases in the body over and beyond COVID. So it's something that we need to take seriously. I think one way to kind of mitigate that or try to address it is that we need to continue to educate and provide that awareness, right? And psychoeducation so that families understand how to address this and deal with this. We also need to stay hydrated,
Right.
right? And we also have sensory deprivation where we need to really allow people the opportunity to frequently reorientate. So we don't want them to just watch TV all day, but we do want them to have pictures of family and things that they care about close to them so that they can continue to have some sense of connection, because that connectivity is a lot to do with how we will treat and fight against isolation.
Right. We talked before about the lack of clinical technicians of color in our communities. And now that we are facing the disparities, that is now is transparent that we're not getting the medical treatment, the psychological treatment that we should be getting on a quality health care. And so the question is, how, as a person who may have delusions and may have stress factors, how can they find someone who thinks like them in their community to talk to get clinical help if need be?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, we need to define what that help is. So when we say the word psychotherapy or mental health interventions, what is that? So we know that represents a continuum, but one of the things that psychotherapy,
right,
if you define psychotherapy in one word, it's talk therapy, right?
Right.
It's a way to help people with a broad and variety of, mental illnesses and emotional difficulties.
Right.
So psychotherapy helps people to, in many ways, eliminate or control troubling symptoms so a person can function better and increase well-being and healing. And until people understand that, then there's always going to be that stigma, right? So I think it's important for us to try to figure out ways to kind of address both the stigma associated with, engaging in mental health treatment. Although I do believe it's lessening over the last couple of years. I think that there's been a lot of awareness, particularly around the millennials,
right,
who are much more involved in this conversation. There's so many books out there now about, mental health and sort of being like introspective and open to those conversations. I think we need to stop thinking about like things and the lack of understanding around embarrassment and silly descriptors like only crazy people go to therapy. Like those are the things that we need to stop saying those things, because then all we're doing is validating that maybe that's what it represents, right? So we have to change the narrative and thanks to you and people like you,
right,
where this is just a natural part of the continuum of our healthcare,
right?
And we've seen the disparities in our healthcare based on COVID. COVID just illuminated what is out there, that there's not enough services and not enough affordable services for
right,
people of color. So we should be aware of that. I think we also think about cost, right? How much does it cost to see a therapist? Well, it depends on where you are, right? So most healthcare providers in the United States have health insurance companies. Mental health is built into their contracts. So most people who have health insurance do have, quote unquote, a behavioral health reimbursement. However, sometimes the co-payments are difficult. Sometimes they're high. It's difficult to identify a culturally sensitive.
That's right.
One who looks at you. So that can be a problem. There's also low cost or what I would say underinsured resources for people.
Right.
Like in New York State, for example, let's just use New York. The Office of Mental Health, they license what you call Office of Mental Health Article 31 clinics, where people who are underinsured or have low cost insurance, they can also seek out therapy. But we also know that, the wait list is long and all that kind of stuff. But it's that first step. It's that step in going through the process to find the right healthcare provider.
Right, taking that first step. Yeah. And that's why I enjoy talking to you, because you break it down so the common person can understand what you're talking about. And I know when I was growing up, my grandmother would always say, well, don't mess with Uncle Joey, because he's touched, and the stigma is being the stigma is being erased as we move forward. So I think we need to get the message out there that, if you have dental work you need to get done, you go to a dentist. If you hurt your leg, you go to a physical therapist. If you feel something's wrong with your mind, you don't have, drinking is not the issue. And I see a lot of young people now just smoking weed like it's going out of style, and especially now. I think it was yesterday. So a lot of people. So I'm just hoping we can get this broader message out. And I think COVID now has shown the disparities in healthcare, and I think the mental component now is needed more so than ever. And I'm glad that you can be a spokesperson.
Your grandma was right. Everybody's a little touched. So if that's the case,
right?
Because everyone will get sick at some point and need help. That was what she really was trying to say. He may, his touchness may have manifested itself in a different way, but all of us will go through situational depression, kind of stress situation,
right.
Loss of a family member, loss of children, difficulties raising our children,
right.
Our own personal, effect, all that kind of stuff will impact us. So the bottom line is 80% of people who seek help actually are cured when they go out for help. So it's something to actually feel empowered and promising that, mental health isn't just something like, oh, I go and sit and talk to someone and it's over with. No, the therapist sort of assess the situation, make a determination, collaboration with the patient or the client, and determine the severity of illness and see what types of interventions are needed in order to help that person. It does include a therapeutic, which would be a pharmacological intervention, but that's the last resort.
Right. I remember in my Senate office, they had a healthcare provider, and it was a young man. He was frustrated, and I said, "Hey, brother, what's the matter?" He said, "I've been here 3 times, and I'm seeing a different person every time." So a key point is getting quality healthcare, and it comes down to money, insurance. You have the uninsured, insured. And it's unfortunate that we're always at the lower end of the spectrum as far as getting help. I know my children's friends, they talk like, hey, I saw my therapist today. Everything is cool. They have no problem talking about seeing a therapist, But in certain people, it's beautiful, yeah. But in our community, like, you saw what? You better watch that guy. We have to do this again. We have to do this again because it's just so much to talk about.
Like English. A lot of people in our community feel we can do it on our own.
Correct.
You know that statement?
Right.
I can do it on my own. I call it the Tony Montana. You remember Scarface?
Right.
When he said, I don't need you, and I don't need him, and I don't need none of you.
Right.
But we see the outcome in that movie. So, yes, we always do it. It's important for us to lean on people when we need support.
Dr. English, you've given us so much information. And I'm sure people are watching this and they're saying, wow, she's a doctor, but she's a sister. She's not saying, well, for those of you in the community, your tone of voice, your mannerism, you're a real sister that people can, you're a real sister that people can communicate with. And so if someone wants to get help, culturally sensitive, psychological help, what would be your recommendations for them where to go?
Okay, so there's a couple of things. One thing I would say to our viewers is that if they wanted to reach me,
right,
I'm on all social media platforms at Dr. Elisa,
right,
or The Real Dr. Elisa for any questions or information, because I know you have very limited time. I also think that we're dealing with a crisis, a pandemic right now, and so to wait on the phone for somebody to get you referred to somebody right away may not be enough time if you're feeling self-harm, suicidal, or anything like that. So I would suggest, particularly for our New York viewers, is that they reach out to the New York State COVID-19 emotional support hotline.
Right.
And there's a phone number if you want me to share that. And I also think that for those who are really dealing with a crisis around the country, because I know you have people that love you all around the country,
that's right.
The world. And so that being said, I think they should reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Talk Line, which also supports veterans. That's also an important resource. And also New York City Well, which is another New York City-based support system within the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Correct.
So, I mean, and all of those services are available 24/7.
Correct.
24/7. And you can go on other like fee-based platforms like Psychology Today. You can find me there. Health. There's a lot of other, what I consider private industry platforms where clinicians are available. But and you can also in those sort of platforms, you can say, I would prefer someone who speaks this language, or someone who identifies as this, identifies or whatever it is. I think that you have a lot more flexibility in those spaces.
Great, Dr. English. Can you please give your email address, your contact information once again to our viewers who are listening to you and watching you?
Okay. At AskDrElisa@gmail.com, but you can find me on all social media platforms at Ask Dr. Elisa, or The Real Dr. Elisa. That's right.
All right. So to our watchers out there, Dr. Elisa English, known her for a long period of time. She's wonderful. She's well-grounded, and we need more people like yourself to get the message out about mental health. Thank you so much.
No, we need more people like you in social change positions to continue to take the bull by the horn and be willing to raise these issues. That's what we need.
Awesome.
Because if our politicians or change agents or advocates aren't taking this seriously, or there's no support for it, that's how information is shared in our communities, right? Through churches, through those messengers that for whatever reason people trust. So people do trust you and love you, and I think that you're doing a wonderful job by providing this platform for the information and raising awareness around mental health.
Yes, we have to keep raising the awareness. It's needed now more so than ever. I look forward to continue working with you because we had a yes. God bless you, Dr. English, and keep doing the great work that you're doing.